Welcome back to the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast. I'm Adam Dorito, and yeah, I know I'm back from DC. I've been off for a couple of weeks because I've been doing crazy things across the country, getting ready for the midterms. But I had an interesting gentleman reach out to me. His name is Christopher Hill, and he does philanthropic travel brands from New Zealand. He's a husband and a father, and I figured we'd take a break from the normal type of podcast interviews we do and get somebody here that has more of a lighter subject to talk about. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Chris.
Thanks so much for having me, Adam.
So tell me more about you. You're all the way in New Zealand, correct?
That's correct,
You know, it's
yes.
one of the countries I've always wanted to go to. I haven't been there yet. I've been to so many countries, but I haven't been across there yet. So tell me about you. Like, where'd you come from? How did you grow up? You know, how did you get involved in all the great things that you're doing?
Whoa. Well, I was born in New Zealand, though at the age of 12, we moved to Australia for 6 years. So did all my high schooling was in Australia, and then moved back to New Zealand for college. And once I finished college, I ended up in London for 6 years. And it was at that point I went into investment banking up there. And in that sixth year, I took a trip to South Africa. And it was on that trip that in addition to going on safari and exploring the wonders of Cape Town and the Garden Route and places like that, I also helped to build a house for a family in one of the townships.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of the slum area just outside of Cape Town. And it was by doing that it sort of added two extra dimensions to travel for me. Firstly, I actually, I got to engage with the local people and hear their stories and gain insights into their lives. And that was wonderful in itself. But secondly, I actually also, it just felt great to make a difference in the lives of the family that we were helping build alongside. And so I got thinking, well, I've learned some good business skills. Why don't I put them to something I find a bit more meaningful and fulfilling, and make it easy for others to have similar experiences to what I've just had? So that was the birthing of what became my current career trajectory in the travel industry.
No, that's amazing. So I volunteer as much as I can with Developing World Connections, which does very similar things. So we travel to other countries into very poor, slummed out areas in third world countries, and in my opinion, it is the best way to travel because you're
Yeah.
really integrating with the local culture. You're really getting to meet the people. You're not just there to do the touristy things. You're going out there where there's no clean water, there's no toilets. You know, you're building a house or you're doing this, but man, when those people start opening up to you and expressing their culture and you're sharing a meal with them in their home and they're getting to take you to all the cool places that tourists don't get to go to, it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my life. And I'd love for you to talk more about your organization and how people get involved with those things because it's such an incredible experience. I encourage everybody to participate in.
Yeah, you've nailed it there in a nutshell, Adam. um, yeah, we basically what we do is we create tailor-made itineraries for people. So every trip is unique. We predominantly focus on families, but that's
Mhm.
not to exclude any other segment. And the idea is typically how a trip gets created is that a client will complete the plan my trip form on our website, and that's really an information gathering form, getting it as much details as possible around destinations of interest, ways of help that are in interest, what people like to do in their leisure time. It's worth noting that our trips are a combination of
Right.
serving and relaxation, and that can be, as I say, tailored to exactly how long you want to spend on how you want to divide up your trip. But most typically, it's like a 7-8 day trip with 3 days of service and then 4 days of chilling out, relaxing, exploring the destination. And so the ways to help, typically our most popular ones are around that building project type thing that I mentioned.
Right.
Also, environmental wildlife conservation,
Hmm.
being a reading partner. And then we've got some sort of a catch-all category, which is around community upliftment. And then finally, if you've got specialist skills such as, being a doctor or a nurse or a physical therapist, then we find a match for those as well.
So, what are some of the countries that you like to go to the most, or what are your clients mostly invested in? So, like, I've spent time in South America, I've spent time in Nepal, I've even been to the UK, Ireland, Scotland. I've been all around those places as well, and obviously the Middle East, but that was mostly with my military career, and it was not as much humanitarian stuff as I thought it was going to be. More drone strikes and things like that. But anyway,
So
especially out in New Zealand, it must be a different environment. So, ironically, in the army now, I got reassigned to Indo-PACOM. So our flag is out of Hawaii now. So we do a lot of the small islands out there north of Australia and around New Zealand, helping them build critical infrastructure. And that's just on the military side. So I am fascinated to learn about the opportunities that you have with your clientele outside of New Zealand there, because it must be very different than what people are used to.
well, yeah, sort of, Adam. But with probably the important thing to add that actually most of our clients are American,
Oh,
and
really? I figured.
yeah, in fact, 95% of our clients are Americans,
Hmm.
and so the most popular would be probably Central America,
Hmm.
so Costa Rica, Belize, Guatemala,
Hmm.
and then I'd say then it's probably a tie between our African destinations and our Asian ones.
Mm, yeah.
So within Africa, Kenya um, is probably the most popular, but also South Africa and Zambia are popular. And then in Asia, it would be Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, and Vietnam.
Right. So what are some of the projects you guys have worked on with your
Hmm.
clientele? What are some of the favorite things that you've done in those countries?
Yeah. So just ranging through a few. Uh, One of our most popular ones is in we offer it in Belize and Peru and India, and that's installing eco-friendly stoves in
Mm,
people's homes. And these stoves replace the traditional huts, sorry, traditional flames, open flames that you find in traditional huts.
right.
And and the beauty of these stoves is that one, that they're enclosed. So in the traditional model, you've got an open flames, and so there's the risk of, particularly with young kids running around, them getting burnt. And so by having an enclosed stove, you eliminate that risk. And by having a chimney to expel the smoke, you dramatically reduce respiratory problems such as asthma. And then thirdly, from an environmental perspective, they're a win as well because they're much more energy efficient. So that's one really popular one, particularly good as well because you can complete it in just 2 or 3 days from start to finish
Right.
with expert local supervision. So yeah, that's one. A favorite of mine is in Bali in Indonesia, and that is installing disabled accessible bathroom for a
Mm,
paraplegic. And the the reason I love it is even though the impact is really focused on one person, i.e. the paraplegic, the impact on their life is so profound that I just love it. And the context for it is that in Bali, being a Hindu island, if you're born with a disability, it's considered like bad karma. And so someone with um, a paraplegic person can be really sadly like hidden away from the rest of the world and lead very isolated, lonely life. And so to be able to bring about a measure of dignity and independence in an area so personal as going to the bathroom, it's, as I say, really, really profound. So that's another favorite of mine. Um, and then thirdly, I would say something a little bit different is what we offer in Argentina,
hmm.
and that is creating solar heating panels using recycled bottles and cans
Interesting.
for families. So yeah, that's another favorite.
Yeah, I would say that people who have never really traveled outside the Western world, basically countries that we live in, and especially Americans, they don't have a concept of how much differently the rest of the world lives than us, right? And when they go into these countries, they realize, oh, I can't just like plug in my cell phone, and the toilets don't really work, or they're not what I thought they were, or there's no heating or air conditioning or anything like that. Things that we really do take for granted in our countries, respectively. And I think it gives a different appreciation because I mean, really, probably more than 80% of the world lives in these types of conditions that you have experienced in these countries, just like I have. And to see the genuine appreciation and joy of these people with the simple things, like you said, like for these paraplegics, a ramp, just making sure that they can use normal human facilities and really respect human dignity. It's such a profound experience. And I think it's something that, especially in my country, because I live in the United States and everyone here takes everything for granted. I mean, they just don't understand how good we have it, and how I can just order anything I want on Amazon. It's at my house in 2 days, and I don't have to worry about it. When in these countries, they might spend 6 months saving up to buy a so-called stove, like you said, and people can't even comprehend. Like, I spent time in Peru and Barranco, right outside there of the slums down there. And just like you said, we were doing similar type of work. We were working in a school, building them a kitchen facility just so they could make clean food that wasn't getting people sick. And then they invite you into their homes, and they're literally just these tin shacks with 2x4s, and they're cooking on open flame inside them. And it is a massive hazard, a fire hazard. And you know how these slums are. The buildings are on top of each other. You can light the entire village on fire. So these eco stoves that you're installing are a great safety asset to these people. And like you said, natural gas and propane is 87% efficient compared to cutting down the forest. And that's another ecological thing that people don't want to talk about, is that the reason why natural gas and liquefied petroleum is so important in these countries is because it prevents them from cutting down their rainforests and cutting down all of the vegetation that they have, and because they need to cook food. And like I said, I'm a civil affairs officer, so the way we always talk about it is that the three quickest ways to destabilize a population is access to food, access to water, and access to electricity. And if you can just focus on those three things, people are happier, they're healthier, they're not at war with each other, they're not trying to steal each other's stuff. Because when you get down to it, you start taking around away those resources, people will compete for them because they have
Yeah.
to feed their kids, they have to feed their families. So by doing these things, outside of a military context, you are help stabilizing and bringing peace to other nations through these processes, and it's so important. Like I said, I can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing, because, like I said, I work in these missions as well, and it is a critical part of my moral and ethical stance as a person to do these things, and I think that more people need to reach out to you to get involved in these things as much as they can, because we have so much opportunity and we have so much assets available to us. And, sometimes people think donating $5 on a website is good enough for me for the year. I can do this. But like going out and doing the work really changes your mind about what it means to be a human in our civilization, for sure.
Yeah, it's night and day between making a donation and actually going out there physically and seeing it firsthand. Mm.
So talk to me about the process. Like you got involved. Like, how did you start it up? And then, when you're signing all these people up, and you're what are the organizations that you're working with on the ground, and how do you keep track of all this? Because I mean, I work with Marty Franson with Developing World Connections on this stuff, and sometimes I think his head's going to explode because of all the Excel sheets he's got to keep track of, and all the contacts he's got to do, and all the WhatsApp things, and then you're translating between multiple different languages to try to communicate with the locals. Like, how do you set this all up to make the process as simple as possible? Because I'm sure a lot of Americans that reach out to you have no idea what to expect, and it's the first time they wore a pair of hiking shoes. Sometimes they're going out and buying it, and then they're jumping on a plane for 18 hours and flying somewhere. So explain the process to me, and how you get people involved, and how they can start whatever from Nebraska and then they end up in Guatemala. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the plan my trip form. I should add to that every inquiry that comes through the website, such as through that form, comes through to me. One of my passion projects is crafting these itineraries for our clients, and so yeah, I handle every single one of them. And really, it's once that form is, and then a relationship begins with our client, and it's up to me then to draw on the 20 plus years of experience of doing this to truly understand what our clients want to get out of their trip, and create that perfect itinerary. But so it's a two-way flow, absolutely. And that can be, jumping on a call. It can be, either Zoom or phone call, or just an email exchange, just iteratively tweaking an itinerary that I propose to them to fine tune it to make it perfect for exactly what they're looking for, and within the budget parameters that are set as well. And so, yeah, so that's how the flow typically works. A client will quite often, there's a split between uh, knowing where they want to go and being open to the ways to help, or on the other side, they can be really open to the destinations, but they have in mind the particular way that they'd like to help. And then it's just a case for me, for, as I say, finding the right match in terms of the time of year that they've indicated. Can be helpful. It might be, I don't know, off the top of my head, let's say that they pick Costa Rica and Kenya, and
Mhm.
July is their month that they want to travel. Let's keep it simple. They've just chosen two. I would probably tend to say, well, Costa Rica in July is quite wet, and so might be best to avoid that. Whereas Kenya, you're looking at the wildebeest migration is happening at that time, so
Right.
it can be a great time to go. So I might steer them in that direction. For example.
So how did you get like, all this knowledge? Are you do you work for National Geographic? Are you like are you like Jacques Cousteau? Like you just have all this in-depth knowledge of all these countries? Because like I said, it is, you are responsible for the client's experience, right? So like knowing when the wet seasons are and knowing when the wildebeest migrations are, like that's great subject matter expert knowledge that you can bring to your clients. And like you're basically like like looking up on the CIA World Fact Book on how to navigate all these countries and everything else. And also during the safe parts. I mean, I've been to countries where, oh man, there's a political protest and people are blowing up buses. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be here, and I was just bringing my laundry down the street. Because
Yeah.
and another thing I think from my experiences too is be prepared to work. Some of these places are not like our countries where like they have stairs or elevators or paved roads or sidewalks. Like you are hiking in remote areas that do not have the typical infrastructure that we're used to. One of the biggest things I learned the hard way on one of my first experiences was like the clean water problem. Right, like I always bring something we call an H2O Go, which is a little solar powered thing that I
Yeah.
can create chlorine with, but I can keep it in my pocket. So no matter what water or anything that I drink, I make a little bit of disinfectant, just I dump it in my bottle and I shake it because it is very hard to find clean water outside of the United States. That's just how it is because we have so many regulations for that. But those things just don't exist overseas. So I mean, I've seen people ruin their experience where, oh, they went out to a nice restaurant and they put ice in their drink and they thought it was fine, and next thing you know, they have to take like a Z pack. Another thing I always bring on my trips, I would go to my doctor, I get a Z pack prescribed to me of heavy antibiotics in case I do get sick or something
Yeah.
happens. Because if you don't have the right travel insurance or something, you don't want to get stuck in one of those foreign hospitals. They don't have the the level of care that are available in the U.S. and New Zealand, right? So. How do you navigate that with your clients who may be like severely inexperienced with world travel and things like that?
Yeah, great question. I think one, there's that concept of 10,000 hours, and I haven't actually added it up for myself, but I'm pretty sure I'm there, over the, as I say, 20 plus years of doing this.
Mhm.
And so you just build it up and it becomes second nature. So there's that. And then it's part of our, philosophy is around taking a holistic approach to the trip. So what I mean by that is that it's not just the volunteering part that is beneficial, and part of that philosophy. So that can come to using sustainable eco luxury hotels, and sourcing restaurants that use organic materials, and use their source their ingredients locally. But also it's around um, employing local guides rather than bringing in external ones. So, and you
Mhm.
touched on this as well. It's having that local insider knowledge
Right.
that can, make all the difference in terms of
It'll make or break your
those
trip
little.
for sure. If you don't have those
Yeah,
relationships on the ground, it'll make or break your trip.
yeah, exactly. So that's really key. That they can have that, the little tips and tricks to give you, one, to keep you safe in a sort of geographic proximity sort of context, but then
Yep.
also, like you mentioned, not going for the ice in the drink, or on the
Yeah, don't ever
um,
do that.
rinsing
Don't.
through the salad and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if people want to get involved with your website and everything else, like one, where do they have to go to, and what is the process that they have to start, and what is the mindset they need to be in to prepare themselves for this? Because it's not like, oh, I'm going on a Disneyland cruise to Florida and I'm just signing up and showing up. Like there's a lot involved, and another thing I learned the hard way too is packing effectively, because you don't want to bring so much stuff with you because like I said, you can't wheel your stuff around on your nice little wheeled luggage bag. You know, might have to have a off-road duffel bag that acts as a backpack, and you might have to carry that for a few miles wherever they drop you off to get you somewhere. So one, you got to be in shape. You know, like you can't be like completely out of shape doing some of these things, especially when you're mixing cement and laying bricks like I was doing down in Peru. But you know, I had to carry a 70-pound bag around with me around this country, like a porter going up the Himalayas, especially when I was in Nepal. Like it was nuts because there is no, like, you can't just bring in your luggage and you have people carrying things for you. I mean, and if you don't do those treks, you can do that. But for the most part, like, what do you think are like the essentials that people need, you know, when they're signing up, and like the mindset they need to be in, you know, to be the best prepared to go on these expeditions, as I call them?
Yeah, I would say mindset would be open,
It's a good one.
open to anything happening, but then also open to to having your life changed,
Yeah.
really. Um, and and part of that is, being open to new experiences. You're taking that awesome step in going to these, somewhat exotic destinations, and so, part of that is, doing a deep dive into the culture, um, and placing of a faith in those local guides, that they do know what they're talking about, and can keep you safe. And so even things, talking about food, maybe things that you wouldn't normally consider, but if your guide is recommending it, my advice would be to trust them on it. And you're gonna love it. You will appreciate them taking that time to perhaps help you, edge you out of your comfort zone. Um, and then I would say, I mean, one thing that probably is important to note, that our trips, that they, because they're tailor made, they can be really intense, like you're describing, but equally they can be, yeah, less so. And certainly we skew more to the luxury end of travel. So that conveys, some creature comforts, which could be, things, high level of accommodation, but also, a massage at the end of a hard day's work as well. So there are those sort of things to look forward to. And I would say that you can basically, another part is that by virtue of every trip being customized, if you're skeptical about it, maybe just do a couple of days, and that's, 2 days out of your trip that you're giving over to this. Dip your toe in the water, see what you think, and maybe do something a bit more intense next time.
No, for sure. So, my next question is, how did you meet all these contacts overseas over your 20 years of experience? Like, did you
Mm.
just Google them and friend them on Facebook or something, or did you have organizations you reached out to? Like, what were all the connections you had to build that network of professionalism for these experiences?
Mm. Yeah, well, there was no uh, no two ways were alike, really. But one thing that did help was, when I was first launching, I uh, my a guy that I was best man at his wedding, he was quite senior within a travel company, and he introduced me to that company's product manager. who very generously shared the contacts that they use in the various destinations that they operate. And so that was sort of our local partners for handling the logistics of the trip, booking the accommodation and the transport and tours and all those sort of things, which saved me having to do that due diligence on them. I had the trusted, well-established suppliers for that, which meant that all that was left for me to find was our community service partners. And so I then spent essentially 2 years before launching, traveling the world and building these relationships. And as I say, there wasn't. I mean, we're talking 2004 and five, which is, I mean, the internet was around for sure, but things weren't as established online. But really, it was a case of just putting myself and the vision out there, and just through seemingly loose connections, people just came to me with recommendation. For example, a couple of things was one. Uh, the a woman said to me, "Oh, you should get in contact with my friend Annette because she's just come back from spending a year in Bali, volunteering there, and
Hmm.
she was an employee of Vodafone, the mobile phone company, and the Vodafone Foundation sponsored her to spend a year as an employee, but still actually just volunteering in Bali, and and so yeah, she was more than happy to grab a coffee with me. And she said, yes, the charity she was working for mostly focused on building or creating prosthetic limbs for
Fascinating.
amputees and so on. But she said, as a sideline, what they offer is building these disabled accessible bathrooms that I mentioned. And my ears really pricked up about that. And so I was then arranged to get up to Bali and meet with them and evaluate their project. Um, and so that was one example. And then another one that I can think of was the New Zealand government was funding for startups, giving them some business training. And there was one of these sessions I was at that there was a woman from Ukraine there, who said, "Oh, you should do something in the Ukraine." And so through her contacts, yeah, was able to get up there and evaluate what she was promoting. So there was no really, as I say, just no consistent path of how it happened, but just by virtue of making it known to my network what I was doing, was able to establish just a great range of opportunities.
Yeah, now it's going to be my next question too. So, is everything that you guys do internally self-funded, or do you work with NGOs and they do partial funding? Do you have government grants, for some of the bigger projects? Because unless you have like some super wealthy clients that are coming in, I'm sure you're not dropping a couple $1 million building a sports complex or something in some of these countries. So, explain the levels they can participate at. Whether it's like whether it's just the eco stoves, it's all self-funded, or whether they're multi, NGO, multi-organization projects. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah. Our model is what I describe as philanthro volunteering. And what I mean by that is that it's the funds that our clients bring, which is the main benefit,
Hmm.
and to enable the project to happen. And and so that can be small scale, like those stoves, through to, I mean, the more standard ones is building houses. Um, we haven't done the multi-million dollar
Yeah.
projects. Certainly open to it and could do it. But so it's typically in the range of $1,000 to $5,000, and that's contributed by our clients.
Sure.
And then the benefit that the clients get is that interaction that we've been talking about, and the exposure and the immersion in the culture. Um, and but yeah, so we do work with NGOs for sure. Mostly they're local. to the destination, and just small NGOs that are focused on their particular area. But we do have some bigger relationships with the likes of World Vision and Habitat for Humanity as well.
Yeah, and I was in the United States too. A lot of these, what people don't really know, and I don't know if you let them know this, but since you're working for like a charitable cause, a lot of these things are tax deductible, for your taxes, right? So you can donate, thousands of dollars on this project and this big thing, but at the end of the year, you could write this off, a lot of those expenses. So not only are you're not just going on vacation, you're giving back, but also it's a nice little like financial benefit to you at the end of the year. So it's like you're giving back and you're saving money on your taxes. So.
That's correct, Adam. Yeah.
So what else do people need to know about your organization? Like, how do they get involved? How do they find you? How can they connect with you on all these things?
Handsupholidays.com is the website, and the best way to reach out to me. As I say, every inquiry that comes through will come through to me. But I'll quickly mention we do have a second website, and this is called Impact Destinations. And the idea behind that is, in contrast to Hands Up Holidays, where, like we've been talking about, you do actually roll up your sleeves and mix the cement or wield the hammer, or get on the end of a paintbrush, whatever the case may be. With Impact Destinations, your philanthropic donation actually is focused on enabling the experts to do what they do best, and at the same time unlocking a unique experience for yourself. So for example, say on a safari day in South Africa, you get to witness a rhino relocation from a
Oh wow.
reserve that's facing a lot of poaching to a better protected reserve in Botswana. So this is where you actually get into the helicopter with the veterinarian while he's darting the rhino. And then once the rhino's been darted, land, spend some time with a sedated rhino, and then help to get it loaded into the container and airlifted off to Botswana. So it's about leaving a legacy and being able to say, I saved the life of a rhino whilst on safari.
So it's handsupholiday.com.
Holidays.com, yep, and then impactdestinations.com, yep.
And then I'm putting this on a banner for you on the bottom of the screen, so I'm trying to get it to pull up for you. And then impactdestinations.com. Cool. I'm gonna see if I can get this to put up there. Yeah, there we go, guys. So you got handsupholiday.com and then impactdestinations.com. You guys can go to those websites. You can connect with Chris. And I, as somebody who's done this with a different organization, but same exact concept, it is life changing. It is something that as long as I have the vacation time every year, I try to go at least once every year. And it is an amazing way to see the world. It is such a great way to travel. It's something you're never going to forget. You're never going to regret. Like sometimes you go on these other tourist destinations, you're like, I got swindled by the local guy buying my drink package and whatever. I had a terrible experience at this restaurant, and like these people fleeced me because you go to some of these countries and that's all they want. They just want your money. But the good thing is, like, when you go to these countries and you're serving, yeah, they're taking your money, but you're building a house. And you're doing some good, and the people are way more receptive when you're there to help them versus just being a tourist there to buy a t-shirt, right? So it's a great way. I think you guys should all go to these websites, connect with Chris, sign up, figure out what country you want to go to, get on a plane for like 16 hours or something ridiculous, like whatever it is, and just go do it. I promise you, as somebody who's done this, it is 100% a life-changing experience, and I can't recommend this experience enough.
Awesome.
Chris, do you have any social media people can connect with you as well?
Yeah.
I can put that up too.
Yeah, we do. We've got Instagram, which is Instagram/Hands Up Holidays and Instagram/Impact Destinations.
Cool. And then impact. So do that, save, and I could do this and just show. So there you go, guys. Instagram, Hands Up Holidays, and then Impact Destinations. So go look up on their social media and stuff. And once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's such a nice break from normally the interviews I have to do, which is like corrupt government officials and politicians and changing the government and all these other things. So it's so nice to talk to somebody who is doing good in this world. What humans are meant to do is taking care of each other. And I want to thank you so much for taking your time across the world, literally in like 20 different time zones for me, to take your time to come on this show and motivate people to go do good in their own communities.
It's been a blast. Thanks, Adam.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. And just hang out for a minute while we end the show.
Sure.
Cool, man. That was a lot of fun.